Hey guys, okay, I'm gonna do this video of skinning the wolf. You can see this is a medium size, well, it's a pretty good size for a female, but it's just an average size wolf. I'm going to show the feet. I'm going to show the head area. Okay, that's what somebody had asked me. Wanted to see how I did the split the lips and clean out around the ears. So you know, this wolf here I'm going to do up for taxidermy work. Now I just wanted to say this other wolf here, he's just like a regular old tawny crappy gray wolf. He is going to get skinned what I call a utility wolf. It's not something that anybody will ever pay money to get mounted, so there's absolutely no reason to go through all that trouble of splitting the lips, cleaning out around the ears, and tubing the feet out, which is what I see some guys like to do, which is what I know that's what they suggest. But I'll tell you right here now, this here, when you tube it from here down, the reason they want you to do that is because if you do like I do, like that's why I split the pad. The wolf is going to be, if it's mounted, it's going to be standing on its feet. They sew these things up, no problem. Now they suggested, my taxidermist suggested, instead of splitting the pad, just to save them a little work and still make it easy enough for me, just cut around the pad like this, leave the pad in one piece, and they said always if you're going to cut around it, go on the inside. Okay, that way if the animals, you know, from the outside, you can they won't. There's no way they can see the sew marks if there ever is any. But this whole tubing thing is simply done so that during tanning or transport or something, there's a slight chance that this here might rip off or whatever. I have never had one do it. I've had lots of wolves tanned, and I think you've seen how I do them. But for this one here, I'm going to show how my taxidermist said he'd prefer it done. You know, he said there's no way he would do the tube method, because when they tan or when they mount it, they have to cut this all the way down anyways. They have to cut it open just like when I cut it open skinning it. So like I said, the only reason it's done in that tube is for when it's getting its tanning and for transportation in case that tears off. And the odds of that are so slim, and I absolutely detest tubing those things out, so I don't do it. But anyways, that's a little bit of an introduction. I'm just going to get ready here. I'm going to shut it off for a second and get ready, and then I'll start the skinning. Now, like I said, he wanted me to go right up the inside. So I will do that for him. You know, and hey, if you don't mind doing the tube method on the feet, then by all means go ahead and do it. It certainly isn't going to hurt. It just, you know, and you just take that chance away that anything could happen to the pad. But, you know, the other thing, like I said, is that if it's a utility wolf, all that work is a total waste. The only thing you want to do is get rid of the pads, skin the feet out, and leave the claws on there. You know, for the most part, the claws are a waste of time too, but the guys at the auction house said that once in a while they'll get people that are looking for the claws for, you know, doing whatever they do with them, and if they're bidding on your wolf and there's no claws, you know, they might not bid quite as high, maybe $10, 20 bucks, whatever. And so, but just definitely just the pads can come off, you know. And that other wolf there, like I said, I'm gonna skin it for the fur market, not for tanning. And it'll be the first one I've sent to the auction in 20 years probably. Well, maybe 18 years. Okay. Now you just get this thing started, just so that you have more room to work with. You go up the foot. Now once you get in here, this is where your little scalpel comes into effect. This thing is razor sharp, and you just get that pad cleaned up. Then you're going to go, like I go right up each toe. You know, and everything, you know, will just get sewed up if they're doing taxidermy work on the wolf. You gotta remember, these guys are good. They know how to sew things up. You look at furriers, they take a bunch of minks and cut them into strips and make a coat out of that. You can't even see a seam in there, so nobody can tell me that these guys can't sew up a toe. So you're going to need to do this, you know, your couple of knives, and you know, you got to have your cutters cutting through the bones in the toes once you get down to the claws. And it's easier for me. I just go from both sides because that middle two toes are the hardest. So get around the back there. I hate skinning wolves, you guys. You know, you take a wolf like this takes, to do it out really good, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. And you get a couple $100 for it. If you're selling it privately, you sell it at the auction, you know, you might luck out and get $100 for it. Where I can, in that same amount of time, I can skin 10 martens and make a heck of a lot more money. Okay, so we just got the first toe done there. And you just got to make sure that you leave all that webbing that's between the toes. Leave it on the skin. Because obviously they can't sew it up if it's not all there. I think that might also be a concern of theirs, is that, you know, people are going to cut stuff off. to be missing stuff when it's time to sew it back together. I know the guy, I talked to the guy at the auction house, and he said there's still lots of people way up north, they'll get those great big beautiful white Arctic wolves, and they just cut the feet right off them. They just send down the fur. There's no claws left on them, no nothing, but that's the way they do it, so that's the way they've been doing it forever. So that's it. Just one thing with these things, make sure you know where your fingers are and that knife is at all times, because it will slice you open pretty quick. I hope this handy camera, I don't know what the heck they call it, GoPro camera, is at the right angle. But okay, so that's the last toe getting cut off right at that bottom joint right next to the claw. You don't want to go too far with that, because if you cut off too far in there, this claw will actually fall out. So there you go. Now once you get it on the board, all this fat that's inside the pad will just get cut off and you're good to go. Okay, so I'm going to turn the camera off, and when I get to the head, I will turn her back on, okay? At the head, and I'm right at the base of the ears here. So now when you're doing this is where the little knife comes in really handy. You just really small little cuts. I don't detach the ears from the head until I have them pretty much skinned down, and I'll show you. This wolf was a little bit of a pain to skin because it still had some frost in his belly and stuff, but it had to be done because that's the problem with wolves. When they're frozen, they're so thick that if it's too warm where you're thawing them, by the time the whole thing thaws out, you are going to start to have the belly go green on you. Okay, so here we go with it is I'm going to go down too much farther than that. And then you're going to cut way up in here. You'll feel the where the bone or all the cartilage, ear cartilage goes into the skull. You're right there. And then you cut that off. And now you're You got your little guy going again. So now there's going to be some like this here. Doesn't need to be on there. Get rid of this. And then now you just get your finger in there, and you're going to be able to see as you go. When you see the skin, you know the skin's going to be darker in color than the rest of it. And you're not going to be able to go on the bottom too much farther than that, and you're pretty much go as far as I go on the top of the ear too. Once you start like where you're nicking in through, you know you're getting really thin. You gotta be very careful there. You're not going to be able to go all the way. Okay, and then all this extra stuff will just get cleaned off after. Just because it's not needed. That's just meat on the earlobes. And let's just cut it off and leave it on the skull here. Of course, I will be cutting the skull right off after, because I need to take some samples and stuff for the government to catch my, or to get my bounty. See, now if this was a wolf that I was doing for just the fur, that would all be cut right off. That would just be completely gone. Total waste of time and energy to do it. But this one here I'm going to get tanned because it's kind of a nice looking gray color. And I want to have it okay for somebody to use for full mount. Okay, so the bottom is, see where you start to break through. Try not to break through, of course. And there you go, and then I'll trim all this extra fat off there once it's on the board. Or not fat so much as meat. Not a lot of fat on the ears. I guess you know if your wolf's got fat ears, there's probably a lot of dead deer or moose around your area. Okay, and the eyes also, you want to get as deep into the sockets as you can, so that you don't lose any of that skin that they okay, so you've got the whole eyelid there. Okay, now the next part is going to be the lips. And it's the most fun part. And this is just a matter of practice. You'll see as you go down where you're starting to have your lips separate. You see right here? Now this is the jowls of the wolf. So you're going to keep cutting along the skin and don't cut through that. Itchy ear. Here. And you see where I'm cutting. Okay, you see the weight of the skin is pulling, and you can see right there is where the skin is kind of like pulling on the jowls. So you just keep little snips there. And you're going to go down as far as you can before you cut through anything. And what you're doing is you're actually splitting the lips before you even take it off the head. I'm not sure if everybody does it that way or if there's another way to do it, but that's the only way I've ever learned. Taught myself, I guess, whatever. Okay, now you're pretty much on these side jowls here. You don't want to go too much further. I'm going to start cutting through if I do. So now you just go back up to where these jowls start, right at the edge of the mouth. And you make sure you get them all the way into its mouth. You see you've got the whole lip split right to the end there now. Now you're going to have to do a little bit down around the bottom because you can't do it too much right on here just because of the curve of the lower jaw. And you'll have to do it a little bit up around here, up the nose too. Okay, so you see here, this is where it starts. See, now you've got the whole lip there. You can see this, you got that whole lip and it's already split right to the end, all the way around there and almost up to the nose. And this is where you're going to have to do a little bit more on the board. But for the most part, you've got her all cleaned off there. Now when you're in here, get rid of as much of this meat as you can without going in and losing that. That's the part they need for the taxidermy, not all this inside stuff. And then it's nostrils. Okay, so now here you're going to want to make sure that you're cutting down along the edge there. See, like right there? And you're going to have to go around those canines, like so. And this guy here. Okay, so now you've gone around the canine, and you're just sliding along the edge of the bone, the lower jawbone now. And there you go. Now you see the head here has basically no lip left on it at all. Alright, and you've got your ear here. Now this is going to be separated a little bit more probably, but not too much. Okay, I am going to now I'm going to go wash up and go in the house and have supper, and then I'll come back out and put them on the board. Alright, so that's how you do the head and the feet. Hope it helps, guys. Later.